President has tightened the reins on legal pathways.
People gathered to protest the Trump administration's
global markets plunge and recession fears.
Instituting reciprocal tariffs.
As many in this room in the Democrat Party seemingly want him to do.
The most successful first 100 days of any administration in the history of our country.
Donald Trump's trade war isn't just shaking up economies worldwide. It is setting off a global chain reaction that's literally changing how countries deal with the US.
In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world.
First of all, President Bukele said that he is not going to smuggle a foreign terrorist back into the United States of America, as many in this room in the Democrat Party seemingly want him to do.
And the most comical part about all of this, half the time, Trump's historic deals are just him cleaning up the mess he made.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
A tide of change is sweeping the country. Sunlight is pouring over the entire world. And America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before.
Have you wondered how one guy could throw global trade into a blender and still call it a win?
Birthright. That's a big one.
Because this is how the story goes. Trump has a pattern, a very loud and very predictable one. And it goes like this. Step 1, make a massive threat. He'll come out with something like, we're imposing a 245% tariff on Chinese imports. Like he's announcing a new reality TV show. Step 2, sit back and let the chaos roll.
We have Liberation Day, as you know, on April 2nd.
President Trump is digging in his heels even as global markets plunge and recession fears grow over his tariffs.
Markets drop, investors panic, his buddies buy in, supply chains freeze. Businesses have no clue what to do, so they hoard inventory or totally pull out of deals entirely.
To destroy their business with your executive order that said you can't represent clients for the federal government. That's their bread and
big
butter.
boys. These are the biggest, most powerful lawyers. These are not people.
You got a lot of leverage.
Everyone's waiting, watching, sweating. Now step 3, he backs off. His buddies reap the benefits of the stock price increases, and now maybe it's a 90-day pause. Maybe he reconsiders. Whatever it is, the heat dies down just a little. Step 4, he declares victory, holds a press conference, calls it historic, and doesn't matter if the only change is undoing the nonsense he started.
Here tonight in the heartland of our nation to celebrate the most successful first 100 days of any administration in the history of our country, and that's according to many, many people.
He'll still call himself the best deal maker in the world. This is Trump, and it's not just a theory. We've seen it play out with China, the UK, and even right here in Canada. Let's start with China. He accuses them of cheating at trade, currency manipulation, underpaid workers, cheap goods flooding the market. And yeah, you know what? Some of that is completely legit. But Trump doesn't come to the table with facts or try to negotiate in a civil manner. He slaps on escalating tariffs, 10, 25, 245%. That's not a negotiation tactic. That's just brute force. And once you pass the 50% mark, that's not pressuring them. That's just basically banning trade altogether. You're not squeezing profits, you're ending trade altogether. And who suffers from that most? The consumers, his country, the people who elected him. I mean, it's no surprise his rating dropped at the 100-day mark.
Trump's 100 days.
People are afraid. Shockingly successful.
If you really want to make America great, that's what you do. You treat your civil servants fairly, and you should bring them back.
And then comes the fallout. US ports clog up, factories start laying people off, Chinese companies stop exporting. American companies don't know what's coming next. So this doesn't end up being leverage. It's just pure chaos. Then the pause. Trump steps back, agrees to a 90-day truce, and China agrees to nothing concrete, just vague promises to talk more. But Trump gets in front of the camera and declares it's the best trade deal in human history. Like he just ended World War III. Meanwhile, we're all just standing here going, wait, didn't you start all of this? And it's not just China. Let's talk about the UK. This is a real comedy twist. The US actually runs a trade surplus with the UK. They sell more to the Brits than they buy, which is, by Trump's logic, should be a really good thing. But nope, he still hits them with tariffs. Steel, aluminum, and most painfully cars. The UK is #1 export to the US, and he's like 25% across the board. Eventually, the UK caves, they sign a deal, and Trump told another press conference, calling it the most incredible breakthrough of all time.
Prices are down by a lot. We just hit 198 in a lot of states. Think of it.
But again, what actually changed? To be honest, not much. The US drops the threat of new tariffs. The UK agrees to buy a bit more ethanol and beef, which, by the way, they barely import anyway. Their strict food standards still block a bunch of American products, like chlorine-washed chicken and hormone-raised beef. So this big deal, it's just for the headlines.
Then came President Trump.
The European Union was formed for one reason. You know what that was? To rip off the United States.
Europeans are shocked and insulted.
If I asked you one word to describe the Trump presidency at 100 days,
I think it would be a bit scary.
Disaster.
Fascista. Chaos.
Okay, now let's bring it home. Let's talk about Canada. The claims against Canada have been absolutely a joke. Trump has repeatedly said that the US subsidizes Canada by $200 billion. Nope, a subsidy is not the same thing as a trade deficit. Trump just blurts things out. His tactic? He slapped a 25% tariff on basically everything we send south. Steel, lumber, aluminum. Didn't matter that we've been one of their most reliable partners for decades. So Canada fired back temporarily, imposed our own tariffs. Trade between our countries got messy. Border delays, contract cancellations. Canadian businesses are scrambling to adapt overnight. Canadians, along with much of Europe, are boycotting travel to the US. Basically, the trust we've built up over decades is now gone. At one point, 1/3 of Canadians told pollsters they saw the US as an enemy. I mean, that's wild. Think about that. 1/3 of us thought that our closest ally as a threat. And when the trust breaks down, so does everything else. Trade, business, investment, and that's just not some abstract global economy thing. That hits the average person. Like our manufacturers, our farmers, our truckers, people who depend on predictable cross-border business to pay the bills. Folks, if you're still here, clearly you care about this stuff. So please take 1 second and hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. It tells the algorithm you want more content like this, and it helps more Canadians find videos like this. I really appreciate it. Okay, but Canada's not the only one looking for new trade partners. China pivoted hard. They deepened ties with Brazil, South Korea, Japan, Australia. Brazil now sells more soybeans to China than the US ever did. They didn't sit around waiting for Trump to calm down. They were smart and proactive. They moved on. Same thing with the UK. They just cut a major deal with India, dropped car tariffs from 100% to 10%. That's how you build sustainable trade. No threats, no grandstanding, just real deals and negotiations that work.
Marco Rubio has been sworn in as Secretary of State. Pam Bondi was sworn in as Attorney General.
Tulsi Gabbard as the nation's intelligence chief. The president spoke alongside Jordanian King Abdullah.
Modi and Trump's friendly report.
The president hosted French counterpart Emmanuel Macron.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer was at the White House.
But that's the thing. Trump's deal style isn't just loud, it's short term. It works in headlines, but not in real negotiations and economies. Because in business, like real business, you need consistency, reliability, a partner who doesn't change the rules every time they're having a bad day. And with Trump, you never know what's coming. That's why countries are diversifying. They're losing trust. That's why Canada is expanding its trade with Europe and Asia. Because we need partners who don't wake up and choose economic violence before breakfast. Now, in fairness, sometimes Trump does get small wins. There are concessions he extracts that, yeah, maybe wouldn't have happened otherwise, but they come at a massive cost. Global markets lost trillions during his tariff wave. US companies cut jobs. Canadian firms lost contracts. And maybe worst of all, the long-term damage to America's credibility as a trading partner. Even American analysts have said it. When your top allies are calling you unreliable, when the default assumption is chaos, you've lost something you can't just buy back. Because at some point, the world's gonna stop centering everything around the US. They'll do what China did, what the UK is doing, and what Canada is doing. They'll just move on. And yeah, Trump supporters love the tough guy act. They love seeing him win. But the rest of the world isn't watching with admiration. They're watching in disbelief. You can't be the world's #1 trading power and the world's most unstable negotiator. That's not a sustainable combo. You either build trust or you become the guy everyone avoids doing business with. And once that shift really takes hold, the US might just wake up to a world that doesn't need them like they used to. So here's the big takeaway. Trump's trade wars weren't deals. They were dramatic headlines. And if we want to protect ourselves here in Canada, we need to keep diversifying, keep building ties with stable partners, and keep calling out the economic messes that we see, no matter how great someone says the deal was. Okay, folks, if you got something out of this breakdown, please hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. I'm going to keep talking about this sort of stuff, especially how it affects Canada. I really appreciate you watching. Have a great day.